The German officer laughed when he heard the report. Canadians were attacking with axes. In a modern war with tanks and artillery and machine guns, these colonials had lost their minds. He was certain they would be slaughtered in the streets of Ortona within hours. He was wrong. What happened in that small Italian town over 8 days in December 1943 would change urban warfare forever. The Canadians didn't fight in the streets. They went through the walls. They turned pickaxes and explosives into weapons more deadly than any rifle. The Germans called it impossible. Military tacticians called it stupid. But when the smoke cleared and Ortona fell, the world had witnessed something they'd never seen before. A way of fighting so brutal, so effective, that armies still study it today. This isn't just about a battle. It's about the moment Canadian soldiers rewrote the rules of war with tools their grandfathers used to build barns. Before we dive into how they did it, take a moment to subscribe and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. What city and country are you in? Now, let's go back to the beginning and see how a stupid trick became genius. December 1943. The Italian campaign has become a nightmare. After landing in Sicily in July, Allied forces expected a quick push up the Italian boot. Instead, they found mountains, mud, and an enemy who knew exactly how to use both. The Germans have transformed Italy into a fortress. Every river is a defensive line. Every hill is a killing ground. And now, as winter sets in, the advance has slowed to a crawl, measured in meters, not miles. The 1st Canadian Infantry Division has been fighting for months. They crossed the Moro River in brutal combat that left hundreds dead in the cold water and muddy banks. Now they face something worse. A town called Ortona. Population 8,000. A medieval port on the Adriatic coast with stone buildings centuries old and streets so narrow 2 men can barely walk side by side. The Germans have decided to make a stand here, not because Ortona matters strategically, it doesn't, but because Adolf Hitler himself has ordered it held. The town has become a symbol, a test of wills. The Führer wants to prove the Allies can be stopped, that German soldiers are superior in close combat, that the Wehrmacht cannot be beaten street by street, house by house, room by room. The Germans defending Ortona are not second-rate garrison troops. They are the 1st Parachute Division, elite Fallschirmjäger. These men fought at Monte Cassino. They are trained in urban warfare. They are fanatics who believe retreat is dishonor. Their commander has told them Ortona will be Germany's Stalingrad, a place where enemy soldiers come to die. They have prepared accordingly. Every street is a death trap. Machine gun nests cover every intersection. Snipers hide in upper windows with clear fields of fire. The Germans have booby-trapped entire buildings. Piano wire stretched across doorways at neck height. Grenades rigged to explode when doors open. Mines hidden under rubble. They have demolished buildings to create roadblocks. They have positioned anti-tank guns to fire straight down the narrow streets. Any soldier trying to advance through those streets will be cut down before he takes 10 steps. The Germans are certain of this. They have done the math, calculated the angles, prepared the kill zones. The Canadians will have to come through the streets. There is no other way, and when they do, they will die. The Canadians arrive on December 20th, the loyal Edmonton Regiment and the Seaforth Highlanders of Canada. These are not parade ground soldiers. They are veterans of Sicily and the Moro River. They have learned hard lessons about fighting Germans in close terrain. They know charging into prepared defenses is suicide. They know the textbook says you need 3-to-1 odds to take a defended urban area. They don't have those odds. They have determination and a willingness to try something no army has attempted before. The initial attacks confirm what everyone feared. The streets are killing grounds. A section from the eddies tries to advance down Via Cavour. They make it 20 meters before a machine gun opens up from a second-story window. 3 men go down in the first burst. The survivors scramble for cover behind rubble. A sniper kills another man who exposes his shoulder for 2 seconds. They are pinned, cannot advance, cannot retreat without more casualties. This is exactly what the Germans planned. Captain Bill Longhurst of the Loyal Edmonton Regiment stares at the medieval buildings and has a thought. These structures share walls, stone walls 3 feet thick that have stood for 400 years. But walls can be broken. The Germans expect attacks through doors and windows. They have those covered. But what if the Canadians don't use doors? What if they go through the walls themselves? The idea sounds insane. These aren't wood frame houses. These are stone and brick buildings with foundations that predate gunpowder. Breaking through them will require time and effort and make noise that will alert every German within 100 meters. But fighting through the streets is guaranteed death. Going through walls might be suicide, but it might also be genius. Longhurst brings the idea to his commanding officer. Lieutenant Colonel Jim Jefferson listens, thinks, realizes they have no better option. He authorizes the attempt. Find axes. Find pickaxes. Find sledgehammers, find explosives. The Canadians are going to mousehole their way through Ortona. The engineers are brought in. They look at the buildings and shake their heads. This is going to be brutal work. The walls are thick stone reinforced with brick. Breaking through will require precise placement of explosives to create a hole big enough for soldiers to pass through. Too much explosive and the entire building might collapse. Too little and the wall stays intact. They will have to feel their way through this, learn as they go, make mistakes and pay for them. The first attempt happens after dark on December 21st. A squad from the Eddies occupies a building on the eastern edge of the town. Germans are in the building next door. The wall between them is 3 feet of stone. The Canadians plant a small explosive charge at the base of the wall. Take cover. Detonate. The explosion is deafening in the enclosed space. Dust and debris fill the room. When it clears, there is a hole. Not big enough. A man might fit through if he crawls, but crawling makes you vulnerable. They need to enlarge it. Private Jack Simpson picks up a pickaxe, starts swinging. The stone resists. Each impact sends shock waves up his arms, but small chunks break away. Another soldier joins him with a sledgehammer. They work in rotation. Swing, step back, let the next man swing. 15 minutes of brutal labor creates a hole large enough for a man to move through upright. Simpson goes first. He ducks through the hole into darkness. His rifle is ready. He expects German fire. Nothing. The room is empty. The Germans evacuated when they heard the explosion. They assumed the Canadians would come through the front door. They were waiting in the hallway with guns trained on that entrance. The Canadians have bypassed their entire defensive setup. The squad clears the building room by room, finds 3 Germans hiding in the basement. They surrender without a fight. They are shocked, terrified. They keep saying the same thing. This is not how you fight. This is not how war works. You are supposed to come through the doors. The Canadians don't care what is supposed to happen. They care about what works. Word spreads through the Canadian ranks. The mouse-holing works. It's slow, it's exhausting, but it works. The Germans have no defense against it. Within 24 hours, both the Eddies and the Seaforths are using the tactic. They develop a system, a drill that gets refined with each building. First, secure the building you are in. Clear every room. Make sure no Germans are hiding to shoot you in the back. Second, listen at the wall. Try to determine if Germans are in the next building. Third, blow the wall. Use the smallest charge possible to create an initial breach. Fourth, enlarge the hole with hand tools, axes, pickaxes, sledgehammers. Fifth, throw grenades through the hole. Wait for them to detonate. Sixth, go through fast, low and moving. Rifle ready. Expect close quarters combat. The work is beyond exhausting. Swinging a pickaxe for hours breaks men down. Hands blister and bleed. Arms turn to dead weight. The confined spaces fill with dust from pulverized stone that coats lungs and makes breathing agony. The noise is constant. Explosions. Pickaxes hitting stone. Sledgehammers pounding brick. Grenades detonating. Rifle fire in enclosed rooms that leaves ears ringing for hours. The Germans adapt. They start listening for the sounds of breaching. When they hear pickaxes, they know Canadians are coming through the wall. They prepare, position machine guns to fire at the breach point, wait for the hole to open. When it does, they pour fire through it. The first Canadian through dies in a storm of bullets. The second hesitates. The third throws grenades blindly through the hole. The fourth goes through shooting. The fighting is brutal beyond description. Sergeant Tommy Prince of the Eddies develops a counter-tactic. After blowing the initial hole, his squad pounds on the opposite wall. Makes noise like they are breaching there. The Germans shift their guns to cover that wall. Then the Canadians go through the real breach. The Germans are caught facing the wrong direction. It works twice before the Germans figure it out. Then it becomes a guessing game. Which wall is the real breach? The Germans have to split their forces, cover multiple walls. This dilutes their firepower, gives the Canadians better odds. The battle develops a rhythm, a terrible grinding rhythm. Blow a wall, enlarge the hole, clear the building, rest for an hour, do it again. Each building is a separate battle. Sometimes the Germans fight, sometimes they retreat. Sometimes they booby-trap the building and withdraw. The Canadians learn to check everything. A chair moved slightly might hide a mine. A closed door might be rigged with grenades. A staircase might have a wire stretched across it in the dark. December 23rd. The Seaforths are fighting for the Chiesa di San Tommaso, a medieval church the Germans have turned into a fortress. Machine gun positions in the bell tower command the surrounding streets. The Canadians cannot approach from the front, cannot get close enough to use their wall-breaching tactics. They need a different approach. Lieutenant Mitchell brings up a tank, a Sherman from the Three Rivers Regiment. The tank cannot fit through the narrow streets, but it can fire from a distance. The gunner puts 3 high explosive rounds through the church's front wall. The ancient stones crack and collapse. Dust obscures the entire building. When it settles, there is a gaping hole. The Seaforths charge through the rubble. Germans are still inside, dazed from the concussion. The fight is brief and brutal, rifle butts and knives. No room for aimed shots. When it ends, 8 Germans are dead. 2 Canadians are wounded. The church is theirs. The Germans bring in reinforcements, more Fallschirmjäger. These men have orders to take back lost ground. They attack on December 24th, Christmas Eve. They come through buildings the Canadians already cleared. Using the same mouse-holing tactics against their inventors, the Canadians are shocked, then impressed, then angry. The battle becomes chaos. Buildings change hands 3 times in 6 hours. The Eddies hold the ground floor of a palazzo, while Germans hold the second floor. They fight vertically, throwing grenades upstairs, firing through floorboards. The Germans drop mines down from the second floor. The Canadians shoot up through the ceiling. Private George Mitchell is in a room when he hears tapping above him. Germans with pickaxes are trying to break through the floor. He empties his rifle magazine straight up. The tapping stops. Blood seeps through the ceiling. Then grenades come down through the holes. Mitchell runs. The grenades detonate. The floor collapses. 2 Germans fall through into the room below. They are dead before they hit the ground. The fighting continues without pause. No sleep. No hot food. Men eat cold rations while crouched behind rubble. They drink water from their canteens and wish it was coffee. The cold is vicious. December in coastal Italy. Temperature near freezing. The buildings offer no heat. Windows are blown out. Walls are breached. Wind howls through the ruins. Men shiver in their uniforms and keep fighting because stopping means dying. Christmas Day. The Canadians wake to no gift except survival. They expected a pause. Some recognition that it is Christmas. The Germans attack at dawn, determined to push the Canadians back, make them pay for every meter. The battle on Christmas becomes the worst yet. The Eddies lose 17 men in 4 hours. The Seaforths lose 12. The Germans lose more, but they keep coming. Corporal Roy Boyd is in a room when the wall explodes, not from Canadian charges, from German ones. They have adopted the tactic completely. Boyd is thrown across the room, lands hard, his rifle is gone. Through the dust, he sees Germans coming through the breach. He draws his pistol, fires 6 rounds, drops 2 Germans. The others throw grenades. Boyd scrambles behind an overturned table. The grenades explode. Shrapnel tears through the wood. Boyd feels pain in his leg. He looks down, blood spreading through his trousers. He cannot walk, cannot run. The Germans are coming through. He reloads his pistol with shaking hands, ready to sell his life. Then Canadians come through a different breach. A wall the Germans didn't know was compromised. Private Simpson is first through. He sees Boyd down, sees Germans advancing, opens fire. The Germans turn, see Canadians behind them. They are trapped between 2 forces. They drop their weapons, raise their hands, surrender. Simpson drags Boyd back through the breach, gets him to the aid station. Boyd survives, loses the leg below the knee but survives. The battle grinds on, December 26th, 27th. The Germans are running out of buildings, running out of room to retreat. The Canadians are exhausted beyond measure, but they are winning, meter by meter, building by building. The stupid trick is working. The Germans cannot stop it, cannot counter it effectively. Their defenses are designed for street fighting. The Canadians are not fighting in streets. German commanders are desperate. They request permission to withdraw. Hitler refuses. Ortona must be held. The division commander sends a message back. His men are being slaughtered in a battle that serves no purpose. The Allies are simply going around Ortona to the west. Holding the town achieves nothing except feeding soldiers into a meat grinder. Hitler's response is brief. Hold Ortona or face consequences. The Fallschirmjäger keep fighting, keep dying, because their Führer has ordered it. December 28th. The Canadians have fought their way to the eastern edge of town. One more block of buildings, then open ground, the port. The Germans have no more room to retreat. They can surrender or die. Most choose to retreat under cover of darkness. They slip away through the ruins, head north to regroup. When dawn breaks on December 29th, Ortona is quiet. The Canadians send patrols through the remaining buildings. Find them empty. The battle is over. The cost is staggering. The Canadians suffered 1,372 casualties. The loyal Edmonton Regiment is devastated. Of the 700 men who entered Ortona, fewer than 200 walk out unscathed. The Seaforth Highlanders are similarly broken. These units will need months to rebuild. But they won. They took Ortona. They proved that Canadian innovation and determination could overcome any defense. The Germans lost more. Exact numbers are unknown because their records for this period are incomplete. Estimates range from 2,000 to 3,000 casualties. The 1st Parachute Division is shattered. It will never fully recover its combat effectiveness. German prisoners speak with respect about their enemy. The Canadians fought like demons. They never stopped, never gave up. The mouse-holing tactic was impossible to defend against. There was no counter, no way to prepare for walls exploding at random. It was psychological warfare as much as physical. The stress of waiting for walls to blow, not knowing which wall, not knowing when, it broke men down. The Italian civilians emerged from cellars where they hid during the battle. 8 days in darkness, 8 days of explosions and gunfire, 8 days wondering if the next shell would collapse their shelter. They find their town in ruins, 90% of buildings damaged or destroyed. The medieval center of Ortona is gone, rubble and corpses, the smell of death and cordite. They expect the victorious soldiers to be brutal. War makes men into animals. They have heard stories about soldiers and conquered towns, but the Canadians are different, exhausted beyond words, hollow-eyed and filthy, but not brutal. They share rations with hungry civilians, help dig survivors out of rubble. The regimental padre, Captain Roy Durnford, organizes aid for the homeless. Within days, Canadian engineers are clearing rubble and repairing buildings, not for military purposes. For civilians, so they have shelter before winter deepens. A woman named Maria Colasanto approaches a Canadian corporal outside the Chiesa di San Tommaso. She is carrying her daughter. The girl is maybe 6 years old, very thin, very pale. Maria speaks no English, the corporal speaks no Italian, but her meaning is clear. She is showing him the child, asking for help. The corporal reaches into his pack, pulls out a chocolate bar, one of the few luxuries soldiers carry. He breaks off half, gives it to the child. She stares at it like it is gold, takes a tiny bite. Her eyes go wide. The corporal smiles. It is the first time he has smiled in 8 days. Maria starts to cry, not from sadness, from relief, from gratitude, from the realization that the soldiers who just destroyed her town are now trying to save it. The corporal is embarrassed, waves her off, goes back to his duties. But Maria tells the story to her neighbors. They tell others. Within days, every civilian in Ortona knows the Canadians are not conquerors, they are liberators. The loyal Edmonton Regiment holds a Christmas dinner on December 30th. 1 day late, but it doesn't matter. The cooks have scrounged supplies. There is turkey, real turkey shipped from Canada. There are potatoes and vegetables. The men sit in a partially destroyed building and eat hot food for the first time in 10 days. It tastes like heaven. They are quiet, too exhausted for celebration. But together, still alive, that is gift enough. Major General Chris Vokes, commander of the 1st Canadian Infantry Division, visits Ortona on December 31st. He walks through the ruins, sees the destruction, sees the exhaustion in his men. He asks Lieutenant Colonel Jefferson about the mouse-holing. Jefferson explains the tactic, shows him breached walls. Vokes listens, then nods. He tells Jefferson this will be studied, taught. The Canadians have innovated a new form of urban warfare. Other armies will copy it. Jefferson is too tired to care about future glory. He cares that his men survived. The dead are buried in a temporary cemetery outside town. Canadian and German graves side by side. The Germans died for a futile order. The Canadians died to end the war. Both groups died far from home in a town most had never heard of before December 19th, 43. The cemetery is quiet. Wind off the Adriatic carries the smell of salt water. It is peaceful here. More peaceful than these men experienced in their final days. News of Ortona reaches Canada slowly. The censors control information. They don't want civilians to know how brutal the fighting was. Early reports describe a successful action with moderate casualties. The truth emerges later, when letters arrive from survivors, when casualty lists are published. Canadian families learn that their sons fought and died in a place called Ortona, using pickaxes as weapons. Some families are confused. Pickaxes in modern war? Others understand. Their boys did what they had to do, found a way to win. That was enough. The military establishment studies Ortona intensely. British and American officers visit the ruins, interview Canadian survivors, examine breached walls, take photographs, measure blast patterns, write reports. The conclusion is unanimous. The Canadian mouse-holing tactic is revolutionary. It solves the fundamental problem of urban warfare. How to advance without exposing soldiers to prepared defenses. The tactic is brutal, exhausting, requires men willing to swing axes until their hands bleed, but it works. The United States Marine Corps incorporates the tactic into their training. They call it breaching. They develop specialized equipment, explosive charges designed specifically for creating man-sized holes in walls. They train entire units in the technique. When Marines fight in Hue City during Vietnam, they use tactics pioneered by Canadians in Ortona. When they fight in Fallujah in Iraq, the legacy continues. Every breach, every hole blown through a wall, every soldier who goes through instead of using a door. They owe that option to the Eddies and Seaforths, who figured it out in an Italian town in December 1943. The Soviet army studies Ortona obsessively. They are planning offensives into Eastern Europe. Into cities the Germans will defend. They need techniques for urban combat. The mouse-holing tactic becomes standard doctrine. Soviet storm groups in Berlin use it extensively. The irony is thick. Hitler wanted Ortona to be Germany's Stalingrad, a place where enemies are destroyed. Instead, it became the place where Canadians taught the Soviets how to take Berlin. Modern urban warfare doctrine traces directly to Ortona, the concept of vertical envelopment, of breaching walls instead of clearing rooms linearly, of using surprise and violence of action to overwhelm prepared defenses. All of it starts in Ortona. Military historians call it the birth of modern urban combat, the place where warfare evolved from 19th century tactics to 20th century reality. The survivors carry Ortona with them forever. They don't talk about it much. What is there to say? We swung axes until we couldn't lift our arms. We blew holes in walls. We killed men in rooms so small we could smell their breath. We did it for 8 days without sleep. We won. They say it simply, without drama. But at night, decades later, they still hear the sound of pickaxes on stone. Still smell the dust of pulverized brick, still see the faces of Germans coming through breaches. Ortona doesn't leave you, it stays, a weight that never fully lifts. Indigenous Canadian soldiers fought in Ortona. They are rarely mentioned in official histories, but they were there. Métis and First Nations men who volunteered despite being denied basic rights at home. They fought with the same courage as their comrades, used the same brutal tactics, swung the same axes, bled the same blood. Tommy Prince was one of them, a sniper and scout who became one of Canada's most decorated soldiers. His contributions in Ortona were significant. His innovations in tactics saved Canadian lives. When he returned to Canada after the war, he was denied service in restaurants because of his race. The country he fought for treated him as less than human. This is the betrayal Indigenous veterans faced, heroes abroad, second-class citizens at home. The town of Ortona rebuilt slowly. The medieval center was gone, replaced with modern buildings that lack the character of what was lost. But the people remember. Every year on December 28th, the anniversary of liberation, there is a ceremony. Canadian flags fly alongside Italian ones. Veterans attend when they are able. The people of Ortona honor the men who destroyed their town to save it. They understand the paradox. The Canadians brought destruction. They also brought freedom. Both truths exist simultaneously. The Moro River Canadian War Cemetery is 7 kilometers south of Ortona. 1,615 Canadians are buried there. Many died in the battle for the river crossing. Many died in Ortona itself. The cemetery is beautifully maintained. White headstones in perfect rows. Maple leaf symbols carved into stone. Visitors come from Canada, from Italy, from around the world. They walk among the graves and try to comprehend the cost. Try to understand what these young men gave up. Most were in their 20s. Many were teenagers. They came from farms and cities across Canada, joined the army, crossed an ocean, died in a small Italian town, never went home. The stupid trick that wasn't stupid at all. That is the legacy of Ortona, the willingness to try something unprecedented because conventional methods meant death. The courage to swing an axe at a stone wall while enemy soldiers waited on the other side. The determination to fight building by building, wall by wall, room by room, for 8 days without respite. This is what made the Canadians special, not superior equipment, not overwhelming numbers, innovation born of necessity, courage born of desperation, victory earned meter by bloody meter. The Germans called Canadians stormtroopers after Vimy Ridge. In Ortona, they earned a new reputation, the soldiers who fight through walls, the men who cannot be stopped by conventional defenses, the army that rewrites the rules when the rules don't work. This reputation carried through the remainder of the war. When German units learned Canadians were opposite them, morale dropped. The Fallschirmjäger were elite troops, the best Germany had. The Canadians beat them. If elite German troops could not stop the Canadians, who could? The story of Ortona is taught at military academies worldwide. The United States Military Academy at West Point includes it in their urban warfare curriculum. The Royal Military College of Canada has an entire course on the Italian campaign with emphasis on Ortona. British officers study it as an example of tactical innovation under pressure. Israeli Defense Forces analyzed it when developing their tactics for Gaza operations. Russian military theorists cite it when discussing close-quarters battle. The battle fought with axes in a small Italian town influences how wars are fought 80 years later. But Hollywood never made the movie. The big war films focus on American beaches or British bridges. Canadian contributions are footnotes. The average person has never heard of Ortona. Ask someone to name a World War II battle and they will say Normandy or Stalingrad or Midway. They will not say Ortona. This is the curse of Canadian military history. Extraordinary achievements, minimal recognition. The Canadians who bled in Ortona deserved better. They deserved to be remembered, celebrated, honored in film and story and popular consciousness. This is why stories like this matter, why they must be told and retold. The men who fought in Ortona are mostly gone now. The last veterans are in their 90s. Soon there will be no one left who was there, who can describe the sound of pickaxes on stone, who can explain what it felt like to go through a breach, not knowing what waited on the other side. When they are gone, all we have are the stories, the records. The cemeteries with white stones in perfect rows. Share this story. Tell your friends about the stupid trick that changed warfare, about the Canadians who used axes as weapons and won against elite troops, about the men who fought for 8 days in conditions that would break most soldiers, about the innovation and courage and determination that defined the battle. Don't let Ortona be forgotten. Don't let the sacrifice be reduced to a footnote. These men earned their place in history. Make sure they keep it. The next time someone says Canadians are too polite to be effective soldiers, tell them about Ortona. Tell them about walls blown apart with explosives and enlarged with axes. Tell them about fighting room to room for 8 days straight. Tell them about defeating Germany's elite paratroopers through sheer determination and tactical innovation. Tell them the Canadians rewrote the rules of urban warfare because following the old rules meant death. That is the opposite of polite. That is ferocious. That is effective. That is Canadian.